Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Don't make me destroy you.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers. The Avengers? Yeah. That's great. Thank you. What is that?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Kenan, and thank you for joining us on today's show. Joining me today from the Creative Control team, we have Sacha and Lee. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Sash, this is a podcast. Yeah, you need to speak. Don't just wave. Good. Well, look, thank you for joining us on today's show. So today we're reviewing two movies, which we saw last week. Sash and I did a double bill last week, and we watched both movies on the same day. Lee hasn't seen one of these movies, so he's actually going to jump off after the first review because he doesn't want spoilers. So in that vein, this is a full spoiler review. So we're going into spoilers for Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and John Wick 4. Okay, but we're going to start off with Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and the latest offering from DC. And where do we start, really? First of all, let's talk about, obviously, the fact that this has been released since James Gunn did his announcement for the reboot of the DCU. And I think, some people are going to be aware of it. Other general movie audiences aren't, so it's one of those things. We don't actually know what that's like, but the general fans do, movie fans, comic book fans, they kind of know the situation. General public don't. But it hasn't had a great opening at all. It's really kind of bombed at the box office. And so we're going to kind of discuss that, why that's happened, but also about the movie, what went right, what went wrong, and we'll go into it. So first of all, Sash, do you want to tell us your initial feelings after seeing the movie?
I didn't mind it. It was an average affair. The thing is, I thought it was a good movie, better than Marvel's recent offerings, which isn't hard as far as I'm concerned. However, that doesn't make it a great movie. It's an average film. It was fun enough. It was fun enough. It had some laughs in there. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel it was as good as the first one. I felt the third act had a little bit of stuff that just, had those action movie cliche quirks where they've got too much going on and it was cut a little bit bad. Like some of the editing decisions and some of the action was a bit okay, cool, but overall it was average. I'd give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10 kind of movie. I didn't hate, and that's not me hating it. I just thought it was good enough. I mean, one of the charm about the original, I felt, was the child actors, and because that's the point of Shazam. That's the whole point. Billy Batson is our main guy. And I just felt like in this one they were too much in their superhero personas more than the child personas. And more importantly, I felt, whereas making the kids older in the last movie wasn't so bad, it kind of wasn't so great in this one because they're teenagers. I mean, when Billy Batson in a comic is 8 years old, it's more impactful for when he becomes Shazam. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, sure. Don't get me wrong. The grown adults did a good job acting as teenagers and stuff, and children and shit. But I just felt, you know what I mean? It just didn't have the Goonies feel that they were, they were trying to pepper in, because you can see it. They were like, hey, look, we're the Goonies. And it's because they have a T-shirt in reference. And it's no, that's what it should be. You know what I mean? I've always said, if you're going to do Shazam, it should be a little bit darker and not like DC Universe dark, but like Goonies, like Super 8, that version of a superhero movie, like Stranger Things. But they went for the comedy route, and it worked. They played it safe. It worked. It worked out fine. But at no point did I feel it was like Goonies or anything like that. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thoughts overall. I didn't hate it. I thought it was an okay ride. I enjoyed it. I liked the cameo in it at the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but we'll see what Ken does.
Yeah,
But,
this is full spoilers, dude. So that's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay. So Lee, what was your overriding thoughts coming out?
Similar to Satch, there was entertaining parts, but I was a little bit. I mean, it wasn't as good as the first one, and I think they might, like Satch said, I think they went down maybe the comedy route a bit too far. It was weird because I felt the younger. I don't know the character's name, Billy, the younger guy who plays Shazam. I thought he was actually more serious than his older self.
Yeah.
Like he was talking to his friends, like as a younger guy, he was very serious, not joking around much. It was all about like, this is serious. Like we got to sort this out. And then he turned into Shazam, and then he's talking to like Helen Mirren like a teenager. So it's like his younger self is the adult, and his older self is the younger version. It was completely backwards, and that threw me because I was like, that doesn't kind of make sense. It doesn't follow through. So that sort of bothered me a little bit. But I think they could have maybe done something different with it, like Sat said, with maybe having them more. I could kind of understand what they were trying to do, like, oh well, these are young people, they're doing their own thing, and then these superpowers. But I think if you did have those powers and you was a group, you would be more together. And maybe try and work together to do better, where they were just causing chaos. And so I can see where they were going with it, but it sort of just bothered me a little bit. But the last scene was quite emotional. I thought that was where they're fighting in the stadium. I thought that was really good, and some good performances. I don't think anyone actually there wasn't any poor acting in it. I thought they all sort of played their part. Helen Mirren, I don't know if she was rightly cast or not, and that's no disrespect to her. I just think, I don't know if that movie and possibly that role suited her, because the younger one said she was like 6,000 years old. How old is Helen Mirren?
Yeah.
But when she was throwing him around the room, it was just kind of like, I don't know, not quite believable. But it had its fun moments, and a bit with Wonder Woman as well. I thought that maybe, I don't know if that was, I didn't really like that.
Okay, so I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page with you guys. So let's talk about the good. So generally the cast across the board, did a pretty decent job. But I did have I'm talking about the good. Focus on the good. So generally across the board, they're pretty good. The sense of the team, was as a good thread, in a sense of like I can't remember what the phrase was, but it was like one or none. I think it was, so. Or no, all or none, something like that. So they all had to be there, or none of them were involved. They're getting used to their powers. So the bridge scene was quite fun to see how they're all attempting things in different ways, utilizing their powers in different ways. So you get to see, quite a bit of them. The effects largely were fairly decent. Nothing really glared out to me as anything too crazy. Like you say, the emotion at the end with him and his foster mum, that was really sweet. And I thought that the way the family came together and that that was nice. It was a good feeling. And some of the humor did land. I particularly liked the writing pen that they found in the caves, and Helen Mirren reading out the letter. And obviously
that was funny.
It's taken verbatim everything that he said, so it's got all the ad libs bit in between. I thought that was really funny, and obviously the way Helen Mirren delivers it is very straight. As a matter of fact, it played out really well. So so there was some decent elements to it. Some of the issues that I had with it, I agree with what you say, Lee. The Billy Batson character didn't match the Shazam character. They're not supposed to be two separate people. It's very much supposed to be Billy in an adult's body. And you can see that in sort of like the Justice League War, the way they've done that there. You definitely get that kind of sense of childhood in it. But I think two parts to that. Sacha, you're right that they're a lot older in the movie than they were in the comics. So obviously they've got all their teen troubles and all that kind of stuff. But Billy, the way he was portrayed by Ash Angel, you know, is a lot more emotion. It was grounded. He's worried about his family. As soon as he's Shazam, he's wisecracking, talking fast. It was just very, very different. I didn't feel that in the first movie, but I definitely got it in this movie. Definitely agree with you, Sash. We spent far too much time with the superheroes in their persona. I mean, DJ Katrona, he got whipped of his powers early on, and he just didn't come back. So he got wiped out of the film really early on. Yeah, the villains, I didn't gel with them as sisters. I didn't get that vibe at all. It was definitely sisters from different mothers or fathers. It's just like there's no cohesion there. It was I didn't rate Lucy Liu in this at all. Very straightforward. There was nothing. I mean, maybe that's, you know, the type of character she's trying to play, but I just didn't get anything from her. Again, Helen Mirren, they're very, very straight in the way that everything was delivered. Athena, played by Rachel Zegler, I thought she was good. I thought, you know, she was really good. She got the balance right between the two, between the sisters, the good and the bad. But the other two, yeah, it just did seem kind of very much dialed in performances. So I didn't get anything that. And obviously they have this betrayal between the sisters at the end. But there wasn't enough build up. It was like there was some obvious nods, but there was no emotion behind it. So it wasn't really a surprise. It's just, okay, that happens. And I think this movie was very much, okay, and then, rather than this happened, which means this happens, which means, you know, there wasn't necessarily a tying factor between everything that happened. It was just very much just plodding forward, getting to the next stage. You know, we had sort of like 1.5 cameos from Wonder Woman. So we have her in the dream sequence with Zachary Levi, which was quite fun. And obviously that was just a body double. And then we have the end scene where Gal Gadot did film her scenes. You may have seen some stuff online with the body double on set. So she did do the restaurant scene, and she did do the end scene as a reference point for Zachary Levi and the cast, because they had to film that scene separate to Gal Gadot because they weren't in the same place. So Gal Gadot did film those scenes. It wasn't deep fake or anything like that. So that was very much the case. Jimon Honsu, he was fantastic, the wizard. He was probably one of the better things in it. Really funny, delivered his lines great. And yeah, he was a real positive. And again, he gets the good balance of the heart and the humor. So that was a really, really well written character. So why do we think that it has failed? I mean, Zachary Levi's come out and he's kind of blamed the marketing. He says it's a family movie and it wasn't really advertised as such. He said the marketing of the movie was poor. And then we've also had stuff come out about Dwayne Johnson. Obviously, this is after the fact, so it wouldn't have impacted necessarily the opening weekend, but maybe afterwards. But one, I think Black Adam again split people. So they're very much like, well, there was no tie-in to Shazam with Black Adam. So what does this really mean for this movie? Some people understand that the DCU is rebooting. So is this version of Shazam even going to be there moving forward? You know, you have to question why maybe Warner Brothers released their slate this early when they have, you know, so many movies coming out. They could have waited for this announcement a little bit later, but that's that. And then the stuff with Dwayne Johnson. So apparently Dwayne Johnson blocked Shazam appearing at the post-credit scene in Black Adam because he wanted Henry Cavill as Superman, and he didn't associate with the Shazam character, even though they are the most closely linked characters. Yes, Shazam and Superman cross paths, but it's supposed to be Shazam and Black Adam. And then there was a block between Hawkman and Cyclone appearing in the post-credit scene for Shazam 2. It was all supposed to be ready to go, but instead they replaced it with the two guys from Peacemaker, including James Gunn's wife and stuff like that. So that was supposed to be the JSA, and they were supposed to be there as well. So again, it just seems a lot of politics going on behind the scenes, things that didn't happen. Why do you think it hasn't performed as well, considering how many people said, yeah, I quite enjoyed the first movie?
Number of
Any
reasons.
thoughts?
To be
Well, I
honest.
think you've answered the question, really. There's
It's kind of a combination of all of it, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's very disjointed.
Well, to be fair, the general audience over the years have kind of gone off DC films.
Mm-hmm.
That's the long and short of it. And the people that are into the Schneiderverse and that, I'm going to say it straight up, you guys don't pay to watch films in the cinema. You guys are all good for signing up to HBO Max and pirating the stuff. But on opening day, and I've been at every single DC opening day, all right, since Man of Steel, all right? You guys don't show up. You guys ain't loyal to your brand. The Marvel guys, they're loyal opening night. Doesn't matter if a movie bombs like Ant-Man did. They are loyal to the core. You know what I mean? But you know, no matter what, man, like the movie could bomb, but at least the opening weekend is always a good opening weekend for Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? DC has never had that thing, and that's why when James Gunn said that he was rebooting the whole thing, that's why when you look at the chat boards, it's split. It's not one. It's not one way. It's not everyone going, "Oh, Henry Cavill," blah blah blah. It's split because you know the general audience didn't care for it. You know what I mean? Just didn't care for it. I see so many arguments online about who's a better Superman, and obviously everyone's still like, "Oh, Christopher Reeve." Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You always get your Christopher Reeve. You always get your Tom Wellens in there. You get your Henry Cavill's because he's there, but no one anonymously is like Henry Cavill come back. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. You do get like people say Henry Cavill come back. No, that's not a denial there. But if you look at those arguments, there's people arguing. No one's on the same page. You know what I mean? And to be honest, with this film, honestly, the first film was a lukewarm hit. It did okay. It wasn't a smash hit. It wasn't anything. And they just greenlit a sequel because they wanted to, you know what I mean? It made enough to let's see what happens and we can get The Rock in the next one because all eyes were on Black Adam. Okay, this is what they should have done for this to be a smash hit. Okay, honestly, see the end of the first one. They should have let Henry Cavill come in. If Henry Cavill had been in that first one, not the neck thing, him in the flesh, that would have made the world of difference to the average cinema goer. You know what I mean? It would have made the world of difference to the average cinema goer. Because because there's that link, that actual connection that, oh, Superman's a part of this. Because Shazam has always been the little stepchild of the DCU. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of been like just there, you know. You got all your core guys in Justice League, and then Shazam's just there on the side doing his thing, kind of thing. If Henry Cavill had come there, you would have brought Shazam into the fold. You know what I mean? Completely into the fold. Fair enough, he's not in Justice League because I don't think he would have suited the tone of Justice League personally, in terms of what Zack Snyder was trying to do. But you know what I mean? At least people will be like, "Oh, Shazam," and then. Here's the thing with Black Adam. Black Adam, okay, if Black Adam probably would have done better if they did link it to Shazam. You know what I mean? The failure was there from the get-go. And you know, you need Black Adam to show in Shazam first before you even get, you know what I mean, his standoff movie. Why this second sequel wasn't a Shazam Black Adam movie, I don't know, because that could have saved The Rock all the embarrassment, but it's ego. You know what I mean? It's
I think I preferred this to Black Adam. I think I would prefer this movie to Black Adam.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think they might have gone too big too soon because like he gets his powers in the first film, and then you think, right, they're a family unit. If they maybe would have focused a little bit more on the family, and and then with their powers, brought in I don't know what other characters they could have brought in, but you know, just had maybe an in between because they've gone straight from getting powers to Fury of the Gods. and then the whole,
Yeah.
again, it's the whole world's being threatened in 2 movies. It's like, build up the characters. You could have seen them develop their powers better, know more about them, and that could have been a good in-between movie. And then, then maybe push it a bit further. But DC always seem to they need instant gratification. Like, we need to go instantly big, and I think that's, they're not playing the long game. And and this film's fallen to that as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in its domestic release in the States, it only did 30 million, which is low. And compared that to John Wick 4, which we're going to talk about, which is R-rated, that is 75 million. So, there's a huge disparity there. And I just, I just think people just didn't feel this movie. I thought the trailer was okay. But there was actually some really I think the marketing was pretty poor, actually, because I remember seeing some teaser spots on Twitter, and where they impose the lettering behind the scenes where it's like amazing blockbuster of the year, this, that, and the other. They had like 6 quotes, 5 of them were from the same person and source, and then there was one other, and it's like they've picked all these words out of one person's review and say, oh, this is what, and because when you read it, you're thinking, there's lots of multiple outlets that are saying this, but when you actually look at the detail, it was like 2 different reviews of like 6 quotes. I was just like, nah, that is poor. That is very, very poor. And so, I can understand, Zach Levi's frustration with that. But yeah, I just also think it was just kind of an average movie. It was average writing, an average story, and it's the decline of the DCEU as it currently is now. We got 2 more movies for that, which is going to be The Flash, which, let's be honest, everyone's going to see it because of Batman, and that's both Michael Keaton's and Ben Affleck. That's the only reason people are going to see that movie. And then we got Aquaman, and that's, from what we read online, that's had very, very mixed reviews and people walking out of the test screenings and all sorts. And Jason Momoa said it's very much more of a comedy. So I think they've really amped up the comedy factor in that as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But okay, so yeah, final scores for Shazam. I'd probably give it a 6.5 because I did chuckle quite a few times through it. So fair play, it did bring out some laughs and stuff like that. And some of the fight scenes with the dragon were pretty cool. So 6.5 from me. Lee?
Same, yeah, give it a 6.5.
Same.
Like you say, there was some funny moments in it, and it was entertaining in parts. And I say the end scene, I did really enjoy that with the dragon and the performances in that scene. So yeah, 6.5.
Okay, and Sasha?
Yeah, I'd give it a 6.
6.
I'd give it a solid 6.
Cool. So just to shout out some scores from the rest of the creative control team. So we had Amrita. She's like, I'm a solid 6.5 on Shazam. So consistent there. Alex was the same, 6.5. Neil slightly more, 7.7. I know Neil wanted to be part of this podcast, but he couldn't be tonight because he's our resident DC guru. So he might have had some different insights to what we had in terms of what they've done with the characters. But 7.7 from him. And Jessen, 8.10, 8 out of 10, which, well, let's face it, Shazam, Jessen doesn't not like anything. So I think Jessen's average score is probably 8 on every movie. So yeah, I can't see what Jessen saw to make it an 8, but Jessen's just very easily pleased. Okay. So that's
I wish I was more like Jessen.
You know what? Part of me does as well because he enjoys so much, and I'm just like,
exactly.
That must be such a great life to live when you just enjoy so much content and you're pleased in that kind of way. But yeah, things get to me more. I don't know. But there we go. Right, so that's our review for Shazam. Right, we're going to move on to John Wick 4. So, Lee, I appreciate you're not going to want this spoiled. So we're going to let you jump off so you can go enjoy John Wick 4. And you have to tell us about it in the WhatsApp group once you've seen it.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers, guys.
Brilliant. All right, no worries. Take care, Lee. Thanks for joining today.
Bye.
Where to start with John Wick 4? Let's talk about the first 3 movies first before we get on to number 4. So John Wick, the first one came out. Actually, it'd be interesting to see what date that was. John Wick. When was the John Wick franchise? Let's have a look. First film was 2014. God, time really does fly. So 2014, the first film will come out. It was very much a kind of a sleeper hit. We didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, a good trailer, but it's kind of like potentially a new franchise for Keanu Reeves. But it was like the simplest story. Very much a story we could have come up with like as a student film. Do you know what I mean? But it was the way it was delivered. It was the way it was handled. It was the way it was shot, the choreography, the fight scenes, the gun action. And the man trained hard. You know, we saw the videos on YouTube afterwards of him on the firing range and doing all that stuff himself, learning how to reload these big guns and stuff like that quickly. Then we move forward. 3 years later, we have Chapter 2, and you know, up the action again. You know, just, you know, so that is a great sequel. Again, one of those times where a sequel is as good, maybe better than the first film. And then Chapter 3 comes out, and it was like, again, it took it to the next level. Parabellum, you know, it was just like, holy crap. You know, and have obviously Halle Berry in it. She was fantastic. You brought the dog, you know, more dogs into it. These killer ass dogs, and you know, it opened up the realm a little bit more in terms of everything that goes on behind the table and stuff like that. A lot more twists and turns in terms of its story. So where the story started very quite simple, now we're getting into a lot more you know, depth into it. You know, really finding their feet in the universe and stuff like that. More about the Continental and all that kind of stuff, which came from the second movie. So just took it to the next step. And then Chapter 4, 2023. This was supposed to be out last year, I think, but got delayed. And originally they were supposed to be filming Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 together, back to back. But they made a decision. So they just made a decision to change it, just do number 4. And I think that's why we have the length of the movie we do now, because they focused on this. And we'll go into maybe why it's just this film now as we can move forward into the review.
Well, it's come out. It's come out now that very much so the idea was back to back, and also that believe it or not, there's an alternative ending.
Right.
Is this spoilers or is this?
It is spoilers. We're full spoilers.
Okay, so I'm not going to go there yet. We'll bring it up later. But all I will say, the ending of 4 is very definitive that this could be the finale. Okay. However, there was an alternative ending that was shot where the ending that we were given implies something else. Kind of implies something else, the latter. And they were going to do a number 5. Now, the director and everyone else has said they will do number 5 depending on the audience reaction of number 1 or of number 4, because they don't want to outstand their welcome. But here's the thing, all right? I believe they could flip it 4 or 5 easily, easily. There's a way, which my friend Amri mentioned in the screening, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. I could do that. Now, part of me wants all the John Wick. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, this movie is that good that I am fine with them ending it here.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I'm very torn as well. I'm very torn as well.
So I'm very torn. If Keanu wants to come back, as long as Chad is back directing, I'm in. I'll watch it. But at the same time, I don't know how they're going to top this one.
You've got to be careful not to outstay your welcome, right? It's, you know, because they could do another one and it could tarnish what comes before. You don't want it to end on a sour note. You know, if you think of the Rocky films, 5 came out and it was really disappointing and it just kind of tarnished the franchise. But then luckily he came back many years later and did another one, and kind of then we got a redemption as we went through. But so, okay, so let's just talk about John Wick 4. First of all, it is fantastic. It is one of the best action movies of the last 10 years, probably, for me. It delivers in so many ways. The action, everything. It's the action, it's the gunfight, it's the martial arts, it is the cinematography, it's the lighting, it's the music. Everything is just on point. Everything is on point. Let's break it down and start talking about like individual factors. That Keanu's in it. There's 2 parts to this. He doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie. he doesn't have a lot of lines in a lot of the John Wick movies. That's not what his character is about. Okay, the less he says, the better. Okay, because what he does say is more impactful. Okay, it's more cutting. He speaks through his actions. He speaks through his body language. Yeah, and that's what you need to know. I think I read he's got like 308 lines of dialogue in the whole movie. Like it's almost 3 hours. So it's hardly any. But, you know, a couple of those lines are just, yeah. You know, and that's all you need. That is all you need. You don't need to say, yeah, I'm ready for this. When a yes is enough, you move on. So Keanu Reeves delivers. Sacha, talk to me about Donnie Yen.
Fuck me, man. So before going
Playing
into
another
this,
blind character. So he goes from Star Wars as blind character to John Wick blind character.
Yeah.
So he does it well. But tell me about Donnie Yen in this film.
Man, Donnie Yen. Oh, look. Was there ever any doubt? Was there ever any doubt that Donnie Yen was going to be fantastic? That's for starters. One of the greatest martial arts actors living today. All right. Iron Monkey delivered, okay? Because that's the first film I ever saw him. Iron Monkey, check it out if you ain't seen Iron Monkey, all right? But Donnie Yen was just fantastic, okay? But you know what? You know who impressed me the most? Scott Adkins. Okay, a lot of people are going to go to Donnie Yen, but if you don't know Scott Adkins has been in bare films. He's been all over the shop. He's always in action films. He's always side guy or henchman number 3 or whatnot. But he also does his own films, which are usually straight to DVD affairs and stuff. And to be quite honest, shout out to him and his movies. Last year, I saw Accident Man, Hitman's Holiday, which is Accident Man 2. Okay, I didn't even know there was an Accident Man 1. Okay, so I watched this film and I was like, wow, this is actually a pretty fun ride. It's not the greatest film. Okay, it's not the greatest film ever, but what it did, it introduced me to him and his films, and I love myself martial arts films, so I started watching more Scott Adkins, and fair enough, okay, he's not the greatest of actors, and
but he's
whatever,
a proper martial artist.
But he's a proper martial artist, and I do like a few of his films. Like he actually has like a filmography where I'm like, no, this one's good, this one's good. I recommend you like a couple, etc. I would like to see him in other films rather than martial arts films, because I think he could be used more and stuff. But what I loved about it was he chose to be in a fat suit, okay, which is very different. He's very unrecognizable, to be honest, okay, and he's still got some licks in, going toe to toe with Keanu, and he was just the transformation was. If you know what he looks like normally, was like, whoa, what the hell kind of thing.
Because your average movie-going audience member's not going to know who Scott Adkins is.
Yeah,
They're not gonna
exactly.
recognise him,
Exactly.
you
Only
know?
the hardcore martial arts fans are going to know who Scott Adkins is. So for me, you know, I was quite impressed with that first and foremost. With Donnie Yen, he was always going to be badass. He was always going to deliver for me. And but for me, it was like Scott Adkins and Donnie Yen in a film where they both fight Keanu Reeves. I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm so in. And oh man, all those fights, every scene with Donnie Yen was freaking amazing. Okay.
I mean, it was the fight choreography to incorporate his blindness, which was amazing. You know, his sense of his senses, the fact that he used like those sensors which he stuck up on the wall in the cabinets, which chimed as people went past, and he knew who they were.
That's right.
You know, you use all these different techniques to enhance it, because obviously he's not always been blind in obviously the franchise. Something's happened to him where he's lost his sight, but so he's obviously formidable, and he's worked with John Wick before. So Donnie Yen's character Kane is very much from obviously the same side, working under the table with like John Wick as an assassin, and basically the table has him under the cosh because they know who his daughter is, and you know, he's kind of retired, but they bring him out of retirement to take down John Wick, because they're going to say they kill his daughter, basically. So it's one of those that he's having to fight John Wick, even though he considers him like a brother. And I really like that dynamic was good, because it wasn't just a straight out, I have to come and kill you, and that, you know, straight bad guy versus good guy. It was a complex situation, and that was then greatly offset because you had Bill Skarsgård as the main villain, and obviously then his henchman. So you just had some really good character positions which allowed you to develop the different kind of relationships that were going on. So Bill Skarsgård, quite menacing. He's just got that face. What can we say? He plays a good bad guy. So didn't obviously it wasn't really anything physical about his performance in terms of any fighting. But you don't need that from your main bad guy. You don't want necessarily John Wick to go through all these trained martial artists for then suddenly the main guy to be able to whoop out and start beating him down, because that would have felt wrong. He is just who he is, and we'll talk about how he gets taken down at the end. A little shout out to Lance Reddick. So obviously he was in this movie, and obviously he tragically passed away recently, and that was quite a tough scene, I have to say. So the character gets shot in the movie and he dies, and it isn't just a kind of a shot and he goes down. He has a moment with the manager, Ian McShane Winston, and he's like, "Thank you, sir," and he holds onto his hand. It was like that made you it felt a little bit uncomfortable in one sense. I can understand why they didn't take it out of the movie, but knowing what happened in real life, that I don't know if it was a beautiful send-off or just an uncomfortable one. How did you feel with that, Sash?
Yeah, I felt a bit uncomfortable about it too, but the fact is, he died after the main premiere, so it had already been out. People had seen the film, so it's not like they're going to redo the ending and stuff when the cat's out the bag.
But they put a nice tag right at the end in loving memory of him.
They put they put in a memory of him at the very, very end of the super end of the credits. So obviously that was an afterthought, because, well, not in a bad way, in the greatest possible way, because obviously it just happened so quickly during a press tour. You know what I mean? During the press tour, mid press tour or just before the press tour. You know what I mean? But movie was out of the bag. That was always the intention for that to happen in terms of the story. And don't get me wrong, it worked for the movie. It wasn't disjointed that it didn't work as a plot device. It just felt weird because of his recent passing. It's kind of how the best thing I could say to general audiences or the mass audiences is how you feel when you watch Carrie Fisher in Rogue One, because a lot of people were going into Rogue One not expecting her little cameo at the end. I know that that's not her, but you've got a digital double at the end, and literally she just passed. So people going into that movie knew she just passed. Hell, I came out of that movie switching on my phone, finding out she just passed away. So you know what I mean? It's one of those things. And then when you see The Last Jedi, you're going into it where she passed. So that's the closest thing I could say. But at the same time, that's with an actress where some people had a year to get over it. But, if you're watching Rogue One, it was literally boom. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's the closest thing I could say to it. But agreed. Agreed with you.
But big props to him. So another really solid performance was Hiroyuki Sananda. We've known him from Bullet Train, Mortal Kombat. He's a very recognizable face. 47 Ronin, he did as well. He delivered a great performance in this as well. Really nice, samurai battle. I love the setting that they had in Osaka. I thought that was really, really great. And then obviously we were introduced to his daughter, who does get away. She has some great fight scenes in it herself. Amy Kwan, who played Mia. She has some great stunt scenes in that section in Osaka with the bow and arrow and stuff like that. It was just really genius ways of when they were fighting. So there was one scene in particular where like one of the guards gets an arrow through his leg when he gets killed, and he's shot, and then he spins on the arrow like on the wall, and his legs hanging up in the air. It's little details to all this kind of stuff, which was fantastic. And what's different about this film was a lot of the guards were wearing body armor, particularly John Wick, wearing Kevlar in his suit. So you had a lot of gunfire where they're shooting at each other, hitting each other, but not making an impact. And so it's finding ways of getting past that to kill him, which I thought was a really, really great take as well. So, he's having to get up close to the guards. The bullets are kind of impacting him to knock him down. They're getting back up again. So he's having to go under the chin or over the back of the head to get the neck under the mask and stuff. Some just really different ways of fighting that I don't think I can remember seeing on screen before. There's so many good things to say about this movie. I think Clancy Brown He was brilliant as the Harbinger. Just that voice. It's him, recognizable as so many characters, and he delivers. There was nobody. Who dropped the ball in this. Again, the cinematography. You had the scene in the warehouse where it was all done sort of like panned over the top, where he went from room to room, where he went in with this like fire shotgun, straight out of Call of Duty. That was brutal. You had the fight scene in the club where you had the water, so you had like this wet fight scene. You had the car chase around the Arc de Triomphe, and
that was so good.
Keanu did all his own driving. So if you go online and go onto YouTube, you can have a look at Keanu training John Wick 4. He practiced driving. They took the cars off and he's driving. He's learning to pick the gun up off the floor. He's learning to drive and reload at the same time. That's pretty much all him. So which is just crazy, the amount that he's actually undertaken and done himself. And then that kind of just before the final scene where they're going up the stairs, that stair scene was crazy. Every time you thought he was getting to the top, just knocked back down again, and you're just I was tearing my hair out going, Jesus, when this is going to end? Not in a way that I'm bored of it, but it just kept going. You're like, where are they going to keep taking this? And it just escalated. And then, we come to that final scene, and it's what's so fantastic about the series is this not huge blowout scene, which is the final scene. It's two guys, duel, 30 steps, 20 steps. It's so brought back down to have the moment, as opposed to it just being a big fight scene, someone knocked off a roof or whatever it is. So I thought that was beautifully done. Obviously, tricks the bad guy, doesn't fire his last bullet, kills him. But then we get what we think is the death of John Wick. He takes a bullet. He says to Winston, "Take me home." They foreshadowed it when they were talking about what they want on their tombstones. And he was like, "Loving husband." And that's on his tombstone at the end. And that's it. It's Winston saying goodbye to him at his tombstone with Lawrence Fishburne's character, the King, and they go off, and you think that's John Wick's story, and it's just like, okay. So, and like we said, I didn't expect that at all because I'm expecting a 5-6, but it fit his story. It fit the character. It was actually a nice ending. Throughout every single film, they said you're only going to get your freedom through death, and he gets his freedom, but he still dies. But he was able to give the life back to who he considered a brother for him and his daughter at the same time. So what did you think of that ending? Did you expect that?
No, I did not. I did not expect that at all. But you know what? Like you said, I think it fits the series perfectly. I think it fits the character perfectly. I think it's the perfect ending to a perfect movie, to a perfect series kind of thing. Now, is there a way back? Because let's put it this way, they've got chapter 5 just in case. Because here's the thing. We would have got this ending. We would have got this. Well, no, because this is the thing. Chad I can't pronounce the surname, but he said that it was always intended to be a two-parter. Always intended to be a two-parter. And then because of COVID and Matrix 4 filming and whatnot, because this was the thing. They announced 4 and 5 before Matrix. And they're really good friends with the Wachowskis, okay? And they more or less was like, right, we're not directing anything. We're going back to work on the Matrix films. And went and did that on the Matrix film and then came back. When they came back, it was COVID. And rather than 2 films, they scaled it down to 1.
Yeah.
But by what I understand is this was always going to be a thing. This was always going to be a thing with the 5 coming out 6 to maybe 6 months to a year after.
Yeah.
However, they haven't put 5 in the can, and they've said this a lot of times on the press tour before a lot more people were conscientious of the ending, that they were going to wait and see what the audience reactions were and decide maybe later, not straight away, whether they do another one, because he wants to do Ghost of Tsushima. I imagine Keanu probably wants to do something else, take a bit of a breather from John Wick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the studio really want it because
Yeah,
it's
that's what I
that
mean. The
Marvel
studio,
money.
now it's done the numbers it's done, they're like, give us 5. We want 5.
Yeah, because
So,
it's done Marvel money. It's done Marvel money.
Yeah.
This weekend for a 18 rated film or R rated film. If you're from the States, that's big. That's big monies. That's mad monies for a film of this genre
Yeah.
made this way these days, because these films are quite cheap to make, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
compared to your Marvel affair. So for a small studio like Lionsgate, because Lionsgate isn't one of the big boys, okay,
No.
you know, it's done the business for them. Their share quota for the year is filled on one movie, and they're happy. The CEO wants number 5 like now. He wants all the John Wicks. He wants it to go till John Wick 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which after 3, that's exactly what these guys were saying. They're like, we do as many as they can. So there was a plan for what they did with the death, regardless. So they've got an out. They've got an out.
Yeah.
But it's a case of whether they should play that out now, because people are going to watch it. People are going to see this movie and go, "This is one of the greatest fucking action movies of all time." And quite frankly, they're just going to be like, "Well, we think we're done because you can't top that." Or do you know what I mean? How do you top it? You know what I mean? If they do a John Wick 5 and top that, I'll be like, bravo! A standing ovation. Okay, standing ovation.
Yeah.
But that's just it. I'm afraid for them to do a number 5.
Yeah,
you know?
agree.
It's like one of those ones. It's like, I want it, but I don't. But do I want it? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like all good things. Like after a while, you're like, do I really want another one? Do you know what I mean? Because it was so good. I wish I could go back in time and be like, do I really want another Star Wars movie? But you know, you can't have them all.
And what's great about these movies is they're all set within a really short time period, so like 8 months in total. So like, the first 2 movies are within like 10 days of each other, and then the third movie is again like a week later. So the first 3 movies are within like 2 weeks. And then they've said this one's probably about 6 months after, because obviously the end of the third movie falls off a building and he needs some recovery time. So they said, about a broken femur, about 6 months. So this one's about 6 months after. So that's kind of where their time frame is. So, but what we do have is the spin-offs. So we do have the Continental TV series, which is coming out. It's rumoured that he is going to be in that. John Wick appearing, guest appearances and that. And then obviously we've got The Ballerina, which is a movie with Anna de Armas, who's going to be playing the lead character, very much on the sort of like that Russian ballerina school, which we saw in the third one, I think it was. So, you know, trained assassin from there. So they can definitely expand on the world of John Wick, but will it sell the same way as having Keanu on the front? Probably not. So I can see why they want that 5th one, but yeah, I mean, obviously at the end of this movie, he's had his slate wiped clean. They said the table, you know, you've paid your debt, you're a free man. But I guess it's by how much do they actually trust that? How much does he think the table is actually going to let him live, or are there other people? So he very much could be that fake out, you know. So where he's
exactly,
he's like,
and that's a reason.
So he's like, take me back home, which is just like, just get me home because I'm in Paris and I'm shot. But they put a grave up to say, he died, so he can just go live his life in peace, you know. So that can definitely happen. There was there was a very end credit scene. So everybody in our cinema left bar us, because I was like, nope, I wait every movie now just in case. And we did get an end scene with Donnie Yen and Mia. So basically Donnie Yen's going to see his daughter because he's got that freedom. She's playing her violin and he's got the flowers, and then you see Mia, who's wanting revenge from her father, because she says to Keanu before she leaves, if you don't kill him, I will. And then she flicks out a knife, and then it kind of cuts to black. So it's like, is that another spin-off there? So we have Mia and Donnie Yen's character as another potential movie, and they're going to take that storyline. Exactly.
So,
or, you know, could that, because I'd buy that. And it's one of those that, does she kill him, or does he hear it because of his senses? You know, is that something they can just play out, or is that just a tease to say, oh, she was still there? Which I don't think it is. I think it's very much a potential to launch off from. So again, that could be another spin-off before we look at John Wick Chapter 5, is we could have that Donnie Yen and maybe see more of the Donnie Yen back story, which I think would be fantastic. See him before, when he was in his prime, before he got blind, you know, and then his daughter's born and he's like then wanting to come out of the business, go through all that, in flashbacks and stuff, potentially, to build up to then him and Mia duking it out because she killed his father.
Yeah. Yeah, that could work. But like, back to the death. I mean, in terms of him coming back, there's obviously a time jump from him sitting on the steps to the gravestone scene, because the gravestone would be in New York. Yeah, I mean, not France. It's very different to James Bond in No Time to Die, where man's dead. Yeah, I mean, man is dead. He is so dead. Like,
we didn't hear a heartbeat stop. We didn't have him attached to things in the hospital going flatline. It's very much he collapses, and then you see a grave. So, like you say, that grave scene could be another year later. So you could actually have John Wick 5 set before the grave scene, and that grave scene is actually then replayed at the end of 5. No, it's like, no, this is when he actually died, not in John Wick 4.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways of doing it. So I think there was only 2 things that kind of gripe me a little bit. Not gripe me, but I just thought was a little bit OTT, which was the 2 falls he has in it. So he has the fall in the nightclub, where he bashes on 3 different things, and then he jumps out of a 4th story of a building onto a car and onto the ground. And it's like, okay, well, in number 3, you fell off the building and you were out for like 6 months. This, you just kind of get up and crack on. 1st floor, 2nd floor, but how high he jumped out. I know he's wearing a Kevlar suit as well, but I was just like, that could have been brought down a little bit. And it was just those couple of things I thought, it's a bit much, but it's not like he's completely out of tone with the rest of the movie. Look at what else he's doing, so it's it's a crazy ride. So for me, I gave this movie a 9.8. I thought it was so good. What about yourself?
9.9 is perfection.
Perfection. Well, perfection is 10. So okay,
well, that's why it's a 9.9. That's why it's a 9.9. 9.9. I've never been so quick to give that as well, because you guys know me. I hate everything. So
yeah, everything's got an issue, but exactly, this just didn't have issues. So Alex gave it a 9 out of 10. Neil gave it a 9.5 out of 10. He said amended from 9, so he's obviously had another think about it, and it's gone up to 9.5. And Amrita said it's either a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. So the consensus across the board is this is great, and you should just go see it, and go see it in a cinema. Don't wait for it for streaming services. Don't wait for it on demand or anything like that. Go see this in a movie, because the sound is fantastic. The action to see on that big screen is something different.
Plus, the best audience is an action movie audience.
Yes, the reactions, right?
Yeah.
So every and ah to everything that's happening. We were creasing up in there at some of the deaths. So.
Oh man.
It's such a fun film to see with friends.
We play COD all the time, and we see that flaming shotgun. I think it was a real gun. We looked at each other. We were like, that shit's real? Yeah. Shows what I know about guns, but, I had no clue that was a real device, let alone ever seeing it on screen, ever. Yeah. So
we all want that John Wick 4 skin now for COD, don't we? We all want that.
Yeah, of course we want John Wick in COD.
Okay, so that's about anything else on John Wick 4, Sacha?
No, I've got nothing to say.
It's just
great. Go see it.
Leave it there. It's a great movie, man. It's a great movie. Well, thank you very much for listening to us ramble on about these movies today, guys. We appreciate it. As always, please make sure, if you're not, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you follow us on all our podcast platforms, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, everywhere you can get a podcast, we are there. And thank you very much for your support. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, peace out.